From the PEP Radio Newsroom, this is the daily news for Monday, March 30th, 2026. These are the stories we are covering at this hour. Pope Leo XIV said Sunday that God doesn't listen to the prayers of those who make war or cite God to justify their violence, as he prayed especially for Christians in the Middle East during a Palm Sunday Mass in St. Peter's Square. With the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran entering its second month and Russia's ongoing campaign in Ukraine, Leo dedicated his Palm Sunday homily to his insistence that God is the King of Peace who rejects violence. Brothers and sisters, this is our God, Jesus, King of Peace, who rejects war, whom no one can use to justify war, Leo said. He does not listen to the prayers of those who wage war, but rejects them, saying, "Even though you make many prayers, I will not listen. Your hands are full of blood." Leaders on all sides of the Iran war have used religion to justify their actions. U.S. officials, especially Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, have invoked their Christian faith to cast the war as a Christian nation trying to vanquish its foes with military might. Turning to congressional news, Representative Jamie Raskin ripped into FBI Director Kash Patel on Sunday over his plan to release decade-old investigative files related to Representative Eric Swalwell, a vocal Trump critic and major Democratic candidate for California governor. At the behest of the White House, Patel is wasting the resources of the FBI and perhaps violating the Hatch Act by ordering agents to spend hours preparing a political smear file for a personnel vendetta. I think they meant personal vendetta. The Maryland Democrat said in a statement, rank and file agents have objected to this gross abuse of the FBI. In both terms, the Trump administration gained a reputation for targeting officials who voice opposition to the president. In Swalwell's case, the FBI is reportedly working to release case files about an investigation that found no evidence of wrongdoing by the congressman. Raskin, the House Judiciary Committee's top Democrat, said that Trump's effort to smear Swalwell is meant to distract from the administration's covering up for pedophiles, dragging the country and the world into a disastrous regional war in the Middle East and inflicting skyrocketing gas and grocery prices on the American people. In news from the U.S. Supreme Court, certain names will be familiar to the Supreme Court in the latest case involving a black death row inmate from Mississippi, with arguments set for Tuesday. Doug Evans, a now retired prosecutor with a history of dismissing black jurors for discriminatory reasons, knocked all but one black person off the jury that tried and convicted Terry Pitchford. Judge Joseph Loper allowed it to happen. The state Supreme Court upheld the conviction. But just 7 years ago, in a case involving the same district attorney, trial judge, and state high court, the Supreme Court overturned the death sentence and conviction of Curtis Flowers because of what Justice Brett Kavanaugh described as a relentless, determined effort to rid the jury of black individuals. 7 of the current 9 justices were on the court then. And finally, in Pennsylvania news, throughout his 2022 campaign for U.S. Senate, John Fetterman often took to social media to needle the few centrist Senate Democrats with histories of breaking party ranks. Then Pennsylvania's lieutenant governor, Fetterman cast himself as the anti-Joe Manchin and anti-Kirsten Sinema candidate who would give Democrats a reliable 51st vote in the Senate. The oversized tattooed hoodie and shorts-wearing Fetterman overcame Dr. Mehmet Oz's celebrity status and his near-fatal stroke to become the only Democrat to flip a GOP Senate seat during that cycle. Fast forward 4 years, and the former Braddock mayor finds himself playing the part he once deplored. And many of the people who voted for him have taken notice. Overall, we feel abandoned. Erie, Pennsylvania Democrat Frieda Tepfer said, most of us do. We feel unrepresented. We're highly disappointed with Fetterman, she said. He's certainly not made himself available to the people in the district. I think the people who expected him to be a progressive were overly hopeful of who he was. Various constituent groups are planning to gather March 30th at Fetterman's 5 offices across Pennsylvania to voice their displeasure. Events are planned in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, Wilkes-Barre, and Erie. Tepfer organized a series event through the local chapter of 50501 or 5051, which has held No Kings protests across the country. We're going to be there with signs, and people will go in and talk to the staffers and let them know how they feel, Tepfer said about the Erie event, which will start at noon outside the Erie County Courthouse. Fetterman's office did not respond to a request for comment for this article. That's the news for this hour. PEP Radio News is available on the Live 365 app, the PEP Radio page at paequality.com, Roku, and Alexa. Up next, we have the Meadville area weather forecast here on PEP Radio.